You'll minimize those. Okay, you're gonna minimize that. And you get FTQ. Recorder here. He's trying to recorder on. If she starts passing it out, it's selling. That's right. That would really have. Back, and I pass it. What? Through the chair to Mr. Neal. Right. That's fair. Now really quiet. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Did you lose? Yeah. It's a little bit better. It's very cold. It's very November.
It is 7 o'clock. It's time to start our August 25 or August 21st, 2003 City Council meeting. Janine, please call the roll.
Mr. Ryan.
Here.
Mr. Barker.
Here.
Ms. Blind. Here. Mr. Shu.
Here.
Mr. Hauser. Mr. Labutus.
Here.
Mr. Lang.
Present.
Mr. Marmy.
Present.
Mr. Neely.
Here.
Mr. Rath.
Here. Would you stand for the invocation by Mr. Labutus?
Shall we pray? Heavenly Father, we come to you in prayer this evening. We thank you for this time and this beautiful day that you have given us to serve you. I ask that you be in our discussions this evening, our proceedings, and help us always to keep in mind your plan for our city. These things I ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Tonight, we are honored to have Principal from Carson to come and do our pledge. Miss Elwell, she was here for the swearing in, so I asked her to stay for the pledge.
I.
You could be dismissed. Next on the agenda is caucus. This is time for council to discuss anything on the agenda. Do we have anything?
Mr. President,
Mr. Marmy.
I make a motion to excuse Mr. Hauser.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Marmy, second by Mr. Labutus. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Caucus only lasts one meeting. So, next on the agenda is the council committee assignments for the remaining of the year. Do we have a motion for these?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Marmy, second by Parker. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. That passes. Next on the agenda is minutes of the August 7th, 2023 meeting.
Motion.
Motion by Labutus, second by Barker. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Passes. Appointments, there are none this meeting. Reports of standing committees, finance and economic development without objection will be received and filed. Reports from city officials, the auditor, Ryan Bubb, operating report for period ending July 31st. 23. Brenda Cooper, the tax office income tax revenue reports for period ending July 31st, 2003, without objection will be received and filed. And now we have a proclamation by the Mayor Hall on overdose awareness.
Whereas the highest Senate Bill 30 went into effect on September 7th, 2021, officially recognized on August 31st of each year as Ohio Overdose Awareness Day. Overdose awareness is critically important here in Newark, Ohio. A campaign to end overdoses, raise public awareness, and to remember the lives lost when the epidemic is happening daily. Overdose Awareness Day marks the importance of understanding the ongoing battle with the opioid epidemic that has touched so many people. Community groups, legislators, and county and state agencies across Ohio are working hard to bring this crisis under control through efforts to expand access to naloxone and to improve access to addiction treatment. Now, therefore, I, Jeff Hall, Mayor of the great city of Newark, hereby proclaim Thursday, August 31st, 2023, as Overdose Awareness Day in Newark, Ohio, in an effort to raise awareness to the disease of addiction. We do have a local event that day. Trish or Linda, either one of you or both of you are really welcome to share details. Now, Mark, I believe it's your 9th annual.
Yes,
This is great.
first I want to say thank you, Mayor, for the
Yep.
proclamation.
Yep.
It means a lot to us that are out here on boots on the ground, trying to save lives, and to all the families and the first responders, the people in the health profession. It takes a village, and we're doing it. We're working hard. Everyone is. We also want to thank Governor DeWine and his team at Recovery Ohio for all the wonderful events they're holding across Ohio, and the extra supplies of fentanyl testing strips that Recovery Ohio has been supplying us with. So that is huge. The event will be held on August 31st from 5 to 7 at the Canal Market. It is our 9th annual. Last year, we lost 56 or 58 people. Our overdose rates are going up, and we need to stay on top of this, and we need to see things move forward. And again, thank you.
Okay, no problem. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is communications. Chance Passing, Superintendent Parks and Cemetery Department. The City of Newark Parks Department will be hosting the yearly TJ Evans Catfish Derby on Friday, August 25th at TJ Evans Park. Next is Denise Anderson, member of the Old Town West Neighborhood Watch Awareness Group. North PD complaint, Todd Alexandria Earthworks Cafe and Lounge, new hours, and Saturday and Sunday brunch. Trish Perry, who just spoke, talked about the awareness, which is going to, overdose awareness will be August 31st. At 36 East Canal Street from 5 to 7. Next up is comments from citizens. You have 2 opportunities. This is your first opportunity. We ask you to keep comments about 3 minutes and name and address for the record. Do we have anybody tonight? Come on.
Desiree Blake, 125 South Second Street. First off, I want to thank Brandon Fox for coming to our Southwest Civic Association meeting and answer some questions to some of the citizens down there in the local area. And then I want to give you guys a little report. Jericho, we got back from Germany last Sunday. She did 42 out of 85 in all events, and the team did 6 out of 9. So they represent the USA pretty good, and she met a lot of friends and everything. I want to report that to you guys.
Nice article.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else at this time?
Hello, my name is Dustin Brees. President Carwick could not be here tonight, so I'm here as a representative of Newark Firefighters Local 109. I'm here to voice my support, our support for the wage package proposed in committee 2 weeks ago for the chiefs and deputy chiefs of the safety services of Newark. It's the opinion of Local 109 that a more competitive wage will offer long-term stability to the command staff and work to curb our most highly experienced and educated members from seeking better compensation at other departments. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Hi, Rochelle Boland Smith, 237 Violet Court. Several issues about safety. One is there still seems to be a lack of knowledge on the public's part on how to deal with right of way and that sort of thing on cul-de-sacs. Cars do not seem to know which go first. And that for particularly a disabled person, that can be a problem. Also, all summer long, and actually longer, I've been seeing bicycles weaving in and out of traffic, particularly kids, and car drivers racing on the streets at the same time. And that's an accident waiting to happen. What seems to be happening is both bicyclists and car drivers seem to think of their vehicles as toys, and they need to be treated as potential weapons and controlled better. So I would like to see the city once again consider a safety fair that includes things like representation from the fire department and EMT in terms of paying attention to traffic. Same thing for educating bicyclists on how to maneuver in traffic and likewise for cars. I can think of a number of organizations who have supported such fairs. For instance, Nationwide is excellent on that. Ohio Brain Injury Association is excellent on that. Children's Hospital, again, is excellent on that. There are a number of locations that are accessible for this. I think it's very doable, and I think it will save lives. It's just so frustrating seeing kids having no idea, being encouraged after they're like 12 years old to go in the street and thinking that there's no rules. And again, the same for cars, they don't know how to deal with each other. I know of a kid many years ago who ended up in a wheelchair, and it shortened his life considerably. Again, I don't want to see these things happen on a regular basis, and we can do something about this. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else at this time? Okay, next is ordinance on the second reading, 23-21A.
Ordinance number 23-21A by Mr. Marmy, Mr. Barker, Ms. Blind, and Mr. Shu. Ordinance creating a downtown Newark tax increment financing incentive district 1 and downtown Newark tax increment financing district 2, declaring improvements to the parcels within the incentive district to be a public purpose and exempt from real property taxation, requiring the owners of those parcels to make certain payments in lieu of taxes, establishing a municipal public improvement tax increment equivalent fund for the deposit of those service payments, specifying the public infrastructure improvements to be made that directly benefit the parcel and declaring an emergency.
Heard the reading on 23-21A. What is your wish,
Mr. President,
Mr. Marmy?
first point of order, is it 23-21 and then we amend it?
It's
It wasn't amended from the committee.
23-21.
Was amended when we did school.
Okay, so it was amended in the committee?
Yeah.
It was,
Okay,
it was public hearing, I think, any kind.
yeah, it was amended.
Okay, it was amended, yeah.
So I'll make a motion to adopt 23-21.
Second.
Got a motion by Mr. Marmy, second by Mr. Lane. Any discussion?
Mr. President,
Mr. Marmy?
just to explain the amendments, because not everybody was aware of them. One of them is C-Tech is going to be specifically named in one of the whereases. And also, the commissioners, they have a 30-day period that if they don't act, then it's their approval. They have 30 days to act, so that also is going to be put in writing in the actual ordinance.
Any other discussion? Janine, please call the roll.
Mr. Ryan,
Yes.
Mr. Barker.
Yes.
Ms. Blind,
Yes.
Mr. Shute,
Yes.
Mr. Hauser, Mr. Labutus.
Yes.
Mr. Lang,
Yes.
Mr. Marmy,
Yes.
Mr. Neely.
Yes.
Mr. Rath.
Yes.
23-21A passes 9-0. Next up on the first readings is 23-33.
Ordinance number 23-33 by Mr. Marmy, Mr. Shute, Mr. Barker, Ms. Blind, and Mr. Rath, that provide for the issuance of not to exceed $720,000 of bond anticipation notes in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of paying a portion of the cost of burial of overhead electric cable and telephone lines, including easement acquisition and alley repairs and all necessary appurtenances thereto, and declaring an emergency.
You've heard the reading of 23-33. What is your wish?
Mr. President,
Mr.
make a
Marmy?
motion to adopt ordinance 23-33.
Second.
Got a motion by Mr. Marmy, second by Mr. Lang. Do we have any discussion? Janine, please call the roll.
Mr. Ryan,
Yes.
Mr. Barker.
Yes.
Ms. Blind,
Yes.
Mr. Shute,
Yes.
Mr. Hauser, Mr. Labutus.
Yes.
Mr. Lang,
Yes.
Mr. Marmy.
Yes.
Mr. Neely,
Yes.
Mr. Rath.
Yes.
23-33 passes 9-0. Next up is 23-34.
Ordinance number 23-54 by Mr. Marmy, Ms. Blind, Mr. Barker, Mr. Shute, and Mr. Rath. To provide for the issuance of not to exceed $910,000 of bond anticipation notes in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of paying a portion of the cost of constructing a new Fourth and Main roundabout and all necessary appurtenances thereto, and declaring an emergency.
You heard the reading of 23-34. What is your wish?
Mr. President,
Mr. Marmy?
make a motion to adopt ordinance 23-34.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Marmy, second by Mr. Lang. Do we have any discussion? Janine, please call the roll.
Mr. Ryan,
Yes.
Mr. Barker,
Yes.
Ms. Blind,
Yes.
Mr. Shute.
Yes.
Mr. Hauser, Mr. Labutus.
Yes.
Mr. Lang,
Yes.
Mr. Marmy,
Yes.
Mr. Neely.
Yes.
Mr. Rath.
Yes.
23-34 passes 9-0. Next up is 23-35.
Ordinance number 23-35 by Mr. Marmy, Ms. Blind, Mr. Barker, Mr. Shute, and Mr. Rath. To provide for the issuance of not to exceed $1,650,000 of bond anticipation notes in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of paying a portion of the cost of road, bridge, and bike path improvements and all necessary appurtenances thereto, and declaring an emergency.
You've heard the reading of 23-35. What is your wish?
Mr. President,
Mr. Marmy?
make a motion to adopt ordinance 23-35.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Marmy, second by Ms. Blind. Do we have any discussion? Janine, please call the roll.
Mr. Ryan,
Yes.
Mr. Barker.
Yes.
Ms. Blind,
Yes.
Mr. Shute,
Yes.
Mr. Hauser, Mr. Labutus.
Yes.
Mr. Lang,
Yes.
Mr. Marmy.
Yes.
Mr. Neely.
Yes.
Mr. Rath.
Yes.
23-35 passes 9-0. Next up is 23-36.
Ordinance number 23-36 by Mr. Marmy, Mr. Barker, Ms. Blind, Mr. Shute, and Mr. Rath. To provide for the issuance of not to exceed $850,000 of bond anticipation notes in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of paying a portion of the cost of ice rink roof replacement and all necessary appurtenances thereto, and declaring an emergency.
You've heard the reading of 23-36. What is your wish?
Mr. President,
Mr. Marmy?
make a motion to adopt 23-36.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Marmy, second by Mr. Lang. Do we have any discussion? Janine, please call the roll.
Mr. Ryan,
Yes.
Mr. Barker.
Yes.
Ms. Blind,
Yes.
Mr. Shute,
Yes.
Mr. Hauser, Mr. Labutus.
Yes.
Mr. Lang,
Yes.
Mr. Marmy,
Yes.
Mr. Neely.
Yes.
Mr. Rath.
Yes.
23-36 passes 9-0. Next up is 23-37.
Ordinance number 23-37 by Mr. Marmy, Mr. Barker, Ms. Blind, Mr. Shute, and Mr. Rath. To provide for the issuance of not to exceed $2,540,000 of bond anticipation notes in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of paying the cost of Tamarack 40th Street upgrade, stormwater improvements, and all necessary appurtenances thereto, and declaring an emergency.
You've heard the reading of 23-37. What is your wish?
Mr. President,
Mr. Marmy?
make a motion to adopt 23-37.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Marmy, second by Mr. Rath. Do we have any discussion? Janine, please call the roll.
Mr. Ryan.
Yes.
Mr. Barker.
Yes.
Ms. Blind.
Yes.
Mr. Shute.
Yes.
Mr. Hauser, Mr. Labutus.
Yes.
Mr. Lang.
Yes.
Mr. Marmy.
Yes.
Mr. Neely.
Yes.
Mr. Rath.
Yes. 23-37 passes 9-0. Next up is 23-38.
Ordinance number 23-38 by Mr. Marmy, Mr. Barker, Ms. Blind, Mr. Shute, and Mr. Rath to provide for the issuance of not to exceed $3,110,000 of bond anticipation notes in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of paying the cost of water system improvements and all necessary purposes thereto and declaring an emergency.
You've heard the reading of 23-38. What is your wish?
Mr. President,
Mr. Marmy?
make a motion to adopt ordinance 23-38.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Marmy, second by Mr. Barker. Do we have any discussion? Janine, please call the roll.
Mr. Ryan.
Yes.
Mr. Barker.
Yes.
Ms. Blind.
Yes.
Mr. Shute.
Yes.
Mr. Hauser, Mr. Labutus.
Yes.
Mr. Lang.
Yes.
Mr. Marmy.
Yes.
Mr. Neely.
Yes.
Mr. Rath.
Yes.
23-38 passes 9-0. Next up is 23-39.
Ordinance number 23-39 by Mr. Marmy, Mr. Barker, Ms. Blind, Mr. Shute, and Mr. Rath. An ordinance consolidating 6 bond anticipation note issues of the city of Newark, Ohio, and declaring an emergency.
You've heard the reading of 23-39. What is your wish?
Mr. President,
Mr.
make
Marmy?
a motion to adopt ordinance 23-39.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Marmy, second by Mr. Barker. Do we have any discussion? Can you please call the roll?
Mr. Ryan.
Yes.
Mr. Barker.
Yes.
Ms. Blind.
Yes.
Mr. Shute.
Yes.
Mr. Hauser, Mr. Labutus.
Yes.
Mr. Lang.
Yes.
Mr. Marmy.
Yes.
Mr. Neely.
Yes.
Mr. Rath.
Yes. 23-39 passes 9-0. Next up is 23-42A.
Ordinance number 23-42A by Mr. Marmy, Mr. Shute, Mr. Barker, Ms. Blind, and Mr. Rath. An ordinance authorizing the compensation of 3 civil service commissioners and secretary of the Civil Service Commission of the city of Newark, Ohio.
This will be held until our next meeting, which is Tuesday, September the 5th. Next up is 23-43A.
Ordinance number 23-40A by Mr. Marmy, Mr. Shute, Mr. Barker, Ms. Blind, and Mr. Rath. An ordinance authorizing the payment of a ratification bonus to full-time hourly non-bargaining personnel, management, and supervisory employees and chiefs and deputy chiefs of the city and declaring an emergency.
You've heard the reading of 23-43A. What is your wish?
Mr. President,
Mr. Marmy?
make a motion to adopt 23-43A.
Motion by Mr. Marmy.
Mr. President, point of order. The next couple of pieces of legislation, if we pass or don't pass those, or if we make any changes, I think they would affect the amounts in that legislation. I would ask that we consider this after the next couple of pieces of legislation, if we could.
You can do that. So you want to go to 23-44A first?
Yeah, I think that's right. And then what would it come after 46? Right, 45.
44, 45, and then 46. 40.
I think 44, 45, and then 43.
Okay,
That makes sense.
44, 45, and then 43. Okay. Janine, will you read 23-44A?
Ordinance number 23-44A by Mr. Marmy, Mr. Shute, Mr. Barker, Ms. Blind, Mr. Neely, and Mr. Rath. An ordinance setting compensation and stating policy with respect to chiefs and deputy chiefs of the city of Newark, Ohio, repealing all ordinances and resolutions in conflict with this ordinance and declaring an emergency.
You've heard the reading of 23-44A. What is your wish?
Mr. President,
Mr. Marmy?
make a motion to adopt ordinance 23-44A.
Second.
Got a motion by Mr. Marmy, second by Mr. Lang. Do we have any discussion?
Mr. President.
Mr. Lang.
Yeah, thank you. I think when we passed this out of finance, there were several comments from most of us concerning with the amount of the raises that were involved there. I think it would be, I'd love to hear from the mayor or Director Spurgeon or Director Hickman. We're here being asked to vote on this up or down without any changes proposed. I'd just love to hear from all of you that this is what you guys are in full support of.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of council, through the chair to Mr. Lang. This compensation package aligns with our philosophy from the beginning, pattern-based, 4-4-4, and how we spend the other 3%. In this instance, we chose to spend at 3% for parity adjustments for command staff.
The mayor.
My comment, okay, okay. Yeah, I'm in full support of it as presented. Certainly, we have phenomenal safety forces and, we appreciate all the officers, men and women, but they need good command. And I'm just gonna tell you, probably many times the issues and problems that happen across the state that hit the news, the negative hits the news always. You wonder why certain things were done, and I think it was a misdirection from command a lot of times. It kind of looks like it's easy a little bit, because knock on wood, we're not bailing out a bunch of problems on Monday nights. But there's an awful lot of work behind the scenes, and nothing to be proud of. We had an active shooter training a few weeks ago that I attended, and it's just been, wow, completely, when police and fire are working together in a great fashion to work with our schools and educate them. So we want good quality management. We need to sit there and pay them properly across the competitive areas. So I support it.
Mr. Hickman.
Thank you. I too support this 100%. You guys asked a lot of tough questions and we gave you a lot of information. And I appreciate that you guys are reaching out to us. I think that the internal and external comparators justify our case. I feel strongly that it's warranted, it's justifiable, and it's affordable. This isn't about any individuals. This is about attracting and retaining talent. We need to be competitive in a competitive environment, and by passing this, it will go a long way to doing that for us. So thank you for your consideration.
Any other discussion among council members?
Mr. President,
Marmy.
thank you, Mr. President. I've had a lot of discussions over this subject, and I want to thank the HR director, Director Hickman, the mayor, everybody that I had these discussions with. At first glance, I was like, okay, this is a lot all at once. And my first inclination was to try to maybe spread it out over a period of time. Found that difficult, and in addition, our newest council member up here, Mr. Neely, who served in the safety forces, really shed a lot of light onto my thought process. And I really appreciate his candor and his experiences, and already seeing a benefit, and it's just his first meeting. So I am in support of this. I have always said that safety forces are our #1 priority in the city, and we need to put our money where our mouth is. And so that's what I'm going to do this evening, and I'm going to be in full support of this. Thank you.
Anybody else, council members? Mr. Matt.
Yeah, I am also going to support this, like I've always supported everybody in our safety forces. But you know, they say you eat an elephant one bite at a time. And at this rate, we're going to consume an entire elephant in about 3 bites. This is huge. It is a huge raise. And it is not enough. When you look at the comps that you gave us, comparing our city to other cities that are comparable to us, this is a raise to get us to the bottom. So this should have been done incrementally, and it should have been done a long time ago. We have more to go. We have further to go. Let's not eat the elephant in 2 or 3 bites.
Thank you, Mr. Rath. Anybody else? Okay, so we have a motion by Mr. Marmy and a second by Mr. Lang. Janine will call the roll.
Mr. Ryan,
Yes.
Mr. Barker,
Yes.
Ms. Blind. Yes. Mr. Shute,
Yes.
Mr. Hauser, Mr. Labutus.
Yes.
Mr. Lang,
Yes.
Mr. Marmy,
Yes.
Mr. Rath,
Yes.
Mr. Neely.
Yes. 23-44A passes 9-0.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Next up is 23-45A.
Ordinance number 23-45A by Mr. Marmy, Mr. Barker, Ms. Blind, and Mr. Rath, An ordinance setting compensation and stating policy with respect to management and supervisory personnel of the city of Newark, Ohio, repealing all ordinances and resolutions in conflict with this ordinance and declaring an emergency.
Heard the reading of 23-45A. What is your wish?
Mr. President,
Mr. Marmy?
I make a motion to adopt ordinance 23-45A.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Marmy, second by Mr. Lang. Do we have any discussion? Janine, please call the roll.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Barker?
Yes.
Ms. Blind?
Yes.
Mr. Shu?
Yes.
Mr. Hauser? Mr. Labutus?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Mr. Marmy?
Yes.
Mr. Neely?
Yes.
Mr. Rath?
Yes.
23-45A passes 9-0. Now we're gonna go back up.
Sorry, we should do
46 too, okay. 23-46A.
Ordinance number 23-46A by Mr. Marmy, Mr. Barker, Ms. Blind, and Mr. Rath. An ordinance setting compensation and stating policy with respect to hourly non-bargaining employees of the city of Newark, Ohio, repealing all ordinances and resolutions in conflict with this ordinance and declaring an emergency.
You've heard the reading of 23-46A. What is your wish?
Mr. President,
Mr.
I
Marmy?
make a motion to adopt ordinance 23-46A.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Marmy, second by Mr. Lang. Do we have any discussion? Janine, please call the roll.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Barker?
Yes.
Ms. Blind?
Yes.
Mr. Shute?
Yes.
Mr. Hauser? Mr. Labutus?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Mr. Marmy?
Yes.
Mr. Neely?
Yes.
Mr. Rath?
Yes.
23-46A passes 9-0. Now we'll go back up to 23-43A.
Ordinance number 23-43A by Mr. Marmy, Mr. Shute, Mr. Barker, Ms. Blind, and Mr. Rath. An ordinance authorizing the payment of a ratification bonus to full-time hourly non-bargaining personnel, management and supervisory employees, and chiefs and deputy chiefs of the city and declaring an emergency.
Mr. President,
Mr. Marmy?
make a motion to adopt ordinance 23-43A.
Second.
Got a motion by Mr. Marmy, second by Mr. Lang. Any discussion? Janine, please call the roll.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Barker?
Yes.
Ms. Blind?
Yes.
Mr. Shute?
Yes.
Mr. Hauser? Mr. Labutus?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Mr. Marmy?
Yes.
Mr. Neely?
Yes.
Mr. Rath?
Yes.
23-43A passes 9-0. Next up is 23-47A.
Ordinance number 23-47A by Mr. Marmy, Mr. Barker, and Mr. Rath. An ordinance abolishing the administrative technical exempt unit and absorbing 3 positions currently under said unit into the policies and provisions of the hourly non-bargaining unit, and repealing all ordinances and resolutions in conflict with this ordinance and declaring an emergency.
Heard the reading of 23-47A. What is your wish?
Mr. President,
Mr. Marmy?
make a motion to adopt ordinance 23-47A.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Marmy, second by Mr. Lang. Do we have any discussion? Janine, please call the roll.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Barker?
Yes.
Ms. Blind?
Yes.
Mr. Shute?
Yes.
Mr. Hauser? Mr. Labutus?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Mr. Marmy?
Yes.
Mr. Neely?
Yes.
Mr. Rath?
Yes.
That passes 9-0. Next up is resolutions on the second reading. There are none this meeting. Next, we have resolutions on the first reading.
Resolution number 23-70 expedite by Mr. Marmy, Mr. Barker, Ms. Blind, and Mr. Rath. A resolution appropriating monies for current expenses of the municipal corporation.
You've heard the reading of 23-70. What is your wish?
Mr. President,
Mr. Marmy?
I make a motion to waive the 2-day reading rule on resolution 23-70.
Second.
Motion to waive the 2-day reading rule by Mr. Marmy, second by Mr. Lang. Janine, please call the roll.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Barker?
Yes.
Ms. Blind?
Yes.
Mr. Shute?
Yes.
Mr. Hauser? Mr. Labutus?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Mr. Marmy?
Yes.
Mr. Neely?
Yes.
Mr. Rath?
Yes.
The 2-day reading rule has been waived. What is your,
Mr. President,
Mr. Marmy?
make a motion to adopt resolution 23-70.
Second.
Got a motion by Mr. Marmy to adopt, second by Mr. Lang. Do we have any discussion? Janine, please call the roll.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Barker?
Yes.
Ms. Blind?
Yes.
Mr. Shute?
Yes.
Mr. Hauser? Mr. Labutus?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Mr. Marmy?
Yes.
Mr. Neely?
Yes.
Mr. Rath?
Yes.
Resolution 2370 passed 9-0. Next up is resolution 23-71.
Resolution number 23-71 by Mr. Marmy, Mr. Barker, Ms. Blind, and Mr. Rath. A resolution appropriating monies for current expenses of the municipal corporation.
This will be held until our next meeting, which will be Tuesday, September 5th. Next up is resolution 23-72.
Resolution number 23-72 by Mr. Marmy, Mr. Barker, Ms. Blind, Mr. Rath. A resolution authorizing and directing the auditor of the city of Newark to pay bills on the clerk of council pursuant to section 5705.41B, then and now certification and declaring an emergency.
You've heard the reading of 23-72. What is your wish?
Mr. President,
Mr. Marmy?
make a motion to adopt resolution 23-72.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Marmy, second by Mr. Lang to adopt. Any discussion? Janine, please call the roll.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Barker?
Yes.
Ms. Blind?
Yes.
Mr. Shute?
Yes.
Mr. Hauser? Mr. Labutus?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Mr. Marmy?
Yes.
Mr. Neely?
Yes.
Mr. Rath?
Yes.
23-72 passes 9-0. And for the last one this evening, resolution 2373.
Resolution number 23-73 by Mr. Barker, Mr. Marmy, Ms. Blind, and Mr. Rath. A resolution consenting to an enterprise zone abatement agreement between the Board of County Commissioners of Licking County, Ohio, and the Heath Newark Licking County Port Authority, and authorizing the Director of Public Service to execute such agreement on behalf of the City of Newark, Ohio, and declaring an emergency.
Heard the reading of 23-73. What is your wish?
Mr. President,
Mr. Barker?
thank you. Yes, I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution 23-73.
Second.
We got a motion by Mr. Barker, second by Mr. Labutus. Do we have any discussion? Janine, please call the roll.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Barker?
Yes.
Ms. Blind?
Yes.
Mr. Shute?
Yes.
Mr. Hauser? Mr. Labutus?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Mr. Marmy?
Yes.
Mr. Neely?
Yes.
Mr. Rath?
Yes.
Resolution 23-73 passes 9-0. That completes all resolutions ordinance for this evening. Up next is comments from citizen. Your second opportunity, please keep your comments to 3 minutes. Do we have anybody tonight? Goodness, it's possible.
Linda Mossholder, 224 Green Meadow Drive in Newark. First of all, I'd like to thank the mayor for the proclamation on the Overdose Awareness Day. We continue to lose people every year, and this is a way for families to basically express some of the things that have happened to their families. I also would like to thank the Licking County Humane Society. They have started a program that's called Bright Spot. And what they're doing is coming to the Salvation Army on the first Monday of every month from 1 to 3 and providing no-cost services to the pets of the people who are unsheltered. 4 of our guests went to the first one and they were treated with dignity and respect. And I'm hoping that even though this is another service provided to the unsheltered, they will be allowed to continue this service. And then I would like to tell you just a little bit about what has happened over the weekend and today. We have a longtime guest, and we call the people who come to the outreach our guest, who is a woman who is 76 years old. She's been coming to the outreach for a number of years. On Friday, on Saturday, we didn't see her. And one of our outreach volunteers came and said they saw her on the square and it looked like she was passed out. So we were able to contact Ben Shirley, who is the VHP homeless outreach worker, and get in contact with the VHE crisis services. They were able to come down, and this person is rather stubborn about accepting any type of assistance. But they finally talked her into allowing them to put her in a motel for 3 days. So she is in a motel right now. I went today because we have to try to get her emergency services through VHP. So I picked her up and we were able to go to the clinic of the outreach East Main Street and get her initially assessed. From there, we had to go back to the main office of VHP to get her to start a housing application. Unfortunately, someone has stole all of her papers. That means she has no social security card, she has no driver's license, she has no picture ID. Without those documents, she cannot get services. We have somebody trying to work on getting her a copy of her birth certificate, which she will need to take to BMV to get a picture ID. Unfortunately, she was born in California. So an agency who has been requested not to provide any assistance anymore to the homeless, so they will be ignored, is working on that. Unfortunately, they need a notarized document with a picture ID in order to process the birth certificate. So it is not easy for somebody who is living on the street to get services. Luckily, this agency is working on the birth certificate, has also agreed to give her extended stay at the hotel until we could probably get her some help. She is 76 years old. She was on the street for over a month. We kept trying to get her assistance. And she said, oh, I'm fine, I'm fine. She is not fine. Last week she fell. She has cuts on her forehead. She has cuts on her hands. She was in bad shape. So right now, we're making sure she has food, because even though people will put people up at a motel, there's no food available. So we're basically have 3 different groups of people, and it does take a village, bringing her food and making sure that she has something to eat. She also doesn't have very much clothing. She told me today, and us two old ladies bonded after 4 hours working together, that she's trying to wash her clothing out in the sink. So we are getting her more clothing, and I'm going to take her tomorrow to let her pick out some groceries. There is a refrigerator and a microwave in her room, because I figure she just needs the dignity of being able to say, this is what I like to eat, rather than saying, here are some snack bars, be happy with what we're giving you. So that's just an update. And when everybody says, use the services, they're easy to get. In our county, they are not easy to get. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Rochelle Bolden-Smith, 237 Violet Court. I would like to correct my previous comments to substitute the word from cul-de-sac to roundabout. In my intention, it seems to be very difficult to get people to recognize pedestrian crossings. So I misspoke on the cul-de-sac thing. In terms of the bicycle thing, that's a separate problem. Also, I'm hoping that the city, while giving raises to a lot of non-bargaining personnel, that we speed up the works for some of the union personnel. That because we have some excellent people that we've been losing, and we can't afford to do that. I hope that the city considers moving that up. And thirdly, Hawaii has been in the news for wildfires recently, and it has been discovered that the overhead wires are likely culprit in the reason why these wildfires started. We have the same problem. We have a lot of trees that are in the wires, and the trees were there first in a lot of cases. I noticed that the city is cutting trees in an odd way. But I think we need to push the electric companies to reconsider how they're supplying electricity to a more progressive way. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Pam?
Sorry, you know.
I'll do it last. Thank you.
Nancy Whalen, 7441 Stewart Road. I didn't plan on speaking tonight, but Linda got up and talked about our guest and that we effectively know at the outreach. And we have several outreach volunteers tonight because of proclamation, and we do thank you for that. They're my heroes. Cinda Mossholder is my hero. Trish Perry is my hero. Esther Matthews, Laura, I can't pronounce her last name. These are people who volunteer their time, as many of you know, week after week. We're not paid. We are a very teeny tiny, small nonprofit. And we're trying to save lives. We can agree to disagree on harm reduction and how we go about things and all the, but at the end of the day, we are trying to save people, just like all of you are, just like our safety forces are. And Linda spent all day with this woman who doesn't have transportation. The hotel is down in Heath. Doesn't have a way to get around. Doesn't have food, which to me is just, we put people in hotels, but we don't have the funds or the mechanism. That's the system. That's the system that we're trying to work, well, that agencies are trying to work within. The outreach, we don't have those barriers. Our barriers are time and money. And most of us work full time. And so I'm so proud. I just had to get up and say, I am so proud of being part of this organization and the work that we're doing in the city of Newark. For the folks like the woman today, like people that we see, over 100 people every Saturday, over 54 to, I think we have 4 puppies now coming to the outreach that we give out dog food. And it's amazing. We welcome anybody to come down and see what we do. We are partnering with churches, businesses, organizations, Intel. We had 2 church groups down, youth groups down there. We have a lot of support from the community. We wouldn't be able to do what we're doing without the support of this community and others. So come on down and see us, talk to us. I know I've talked to several council people. Again, we can agree to disagree on certain things, but I think all of you would agree we want to save lives. We want people, we lost another person who was unsheltered. You probably heard about it in the paper or on social media in the river. I reached out to the man's daughter and had a conversation, young woman, from Crooksville. And so she wants us to go check on a person who her dad was helping, who was in a wheelchair. So, you know, we'll try and do that because he was this person's legs for running to the speedway or whatever. We built a community and we welcome anybody into our community. Thank you.
Wow.
That was third.
Okay.
Gary Babcock, 67 Philmont Avenue. First of all, congratulations, President.
Thank you.
Harris. Secondly, I want to officially or publicly apologize to Councilman Rath. At the last meeting, I kind of picked on him. And there's a time and place for everything. It was not time and place. And thank you for coming over to me after the meeting. And thanks for the second step you took was in my favor. So thank you. Thirdly, a couple meetings ago, we discussed the mess that is being left by churches and nonprofits are feeding people. They're in plastic bags, they're in styrofoam cartons, and the city of Newark is paying people to go around and pick them up. So I attend a pretty large church. You've probably seen the black shirts. I love my city. I don't have one. I don't know the reason why. I don't have one. So anyhow, Miss Blind, she said something about why don't we have a cleanup day from these people that are giving out the stuff. So I took her comment to our pastor. And I did it in yellow. Of course, he wasn't there. I slid it in the door and he did what every good pastor would do. He gave that minutes to his wife and said, take care of that. So, Miss Blind, 826 Christian Life Center will be out in force with shirts. Ta-da. Maybe there. Love my city. And guess who gets this? And they made you up a bank, Miss Blind. There, that's all yours. And there's a card in there of the go-to people for the cleanup, if you do want to give them a call and touch base. Thanks, folks. Appreciate
you.
it.
Any city officials tonight?
Thank you. I want to take this opportunity to thank council, not just for your vote tonight, but for the support that you've shown safety forces in the 3 years I've been safety director. It's one thing to sit up there and say that you support safety. It's another thing to back that up with your votes. And you've done that time and time again, and it's very much appreciated. I especially want to thank Councilman Marmy for the spirited conversations we had back and forth over this. He asked some difficult questions, and I tried to give him some difficult. But your vote tonight sends a positive signal to all of our safety forces, and it's very much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other city officials?
Yes, Mr. President, I'd echo Director Hickman's comments. Thank you for your support. It's been an arduous journey. We started in the spring of 22, and as we near the end of the finish line with all things compensation, it's a precarious balance because we take our fiduciary responsibility as seriously as the legislative body, Mayor Hall's administration, our wise conservative spenders. We also want to send a message across the entire enterprise. We appreciate their efforts. So I want to thank Director Moore and her office, for our directors, Christina Barth, the glue that holds it all together. Mayor, your support, I appreciate it. And certainly, Mr. President's legislative body, thank you for your votes and support.
Thank you. Any other city officials? Hello, Director.
Yes. I would like to echo what Director Hickman said. So he said it so well. My office also appreciates consideration given to our people who, support the safety forces. I mean, it doesn't end at the arrest, it comes through our office, and we are very proud of the quality that we have in that office, and I like to maintain that in my office. So I appreciate your consideration of my request as well.
Mr. Mayor.
I'll probably echo that same sentiment that has been shared here. I want to thank everybody. We work with about 360 outstanding employees across the city, and very, very proud of each and every one of them. They work hard. There's a lot of work. There's many cities that have a lot more employees than this city had. I think 150 more employees than that many years ago. So we're doing more with less, and we appreciate the stipend everybody got. I'll welcome Mr. Harris into the permanent seat while he has been there as a fill-in. This is the real thing, and you're looking pretty dapper this evening. And I'd like to also welcome Mr. Neely up here to council. That's great. And I'll end probably with Mr. Burns. I was at the last Mayor's concert and you weren't there. So I'll throw that back out. I look for it. I'm sorry, you can't say anything.
All right, Mr.
First, I'd like to thank Councilwoman Blind for inviting me to the Easy Street cleanup. On Saturday, we removed like a dump trailer full of trash. We treated 2 individuals with dignity and respect. But yeah, they were sleeping underneath the bridge. So, like I said, that whole dump trailer full of trash. So that's from needles to people's taxes, so I think every other Saturday we should probably go down there. I don't know if we have any volunteers that want to help us, but it's pretty bad. On my way up here, there was people down there. So on a good note, I want to say I'm proud and honored that I could support the safety services. And that is all. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barker.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's good to now be officially able to call you Mr. President instead of just plain. So appreciate you stepping into that role and serving. Councilman Neely, welcome. Treat that seat well over there. That was where I sat for the last 4+ years, and we went alphabetical this time, back to something that was done, I think, probably at least 2 clerks ago. It started where the at-large members fell in alphabetical order. Do want to announce, it's kind of been on social media and everything, the Light Night Car Show is coming back to downtown Newark on September 9th. That show, the proceeds from that show support the Licking County Courthouse lighting, which I am the chair of, and we'll actually be celebrating our 75th anniversary this year of the lighting. So looking forward to that event in downtown. Last week, Councilman Hauser, even though he's not here, I'll give him credit, don't anybody tell him. But for being on the committee that helped set up the arcade event here in downtown Newark. We had a great time. I was fortunate enough to be asked to serve as the auctioneer that night, and we raised about a little over $15,000 to go towards the arcade renovations, which still more funds are needed for that. And but touring the arcade, we're very blessed with Newark Development Partners and our private public partnerships. Because as I think someone said that night, it's a 70,000 square foot building in downtown, and if NDP didn't have control of it, what would happen to it today? It could be a major safety issue as we have our heads of our safety forces in here. I'm sure they would all agree that that is probably one of the nightmare scenarios if the hands did not change. And then just to follow up, very proud of our safety forces, happy to support the raises this evening. We know you all do. It's very proud. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barker, Ms. Blind.
Thank you, Mr. President. So I'd like to congratulate Mr. Harris.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Neely, welcome, your final capacity there. I'm grateful for the opportunity to support our safety force. You guys do a great job. And I'd also like to thank Councilman Marmy for his leadership and time, bringing clarity to some things that were somewhat opaque as a first go around in council. So I'd like to thank him for that. And Councilman Ryan, also, thank you for bringing your truck and all the equipment. And we had a great time. There was so much taken out of there, and there's some more aesthetics that need to be taken care of yet. But there's a concert this Sunday from 2 to 5. It's going to be acoustic, largely in nature, and it's going to be a really good time. So bring the chair, the picnic, and come on down. And I'd like to thank the South New York Civic Association. Mary Prophet is not here, but she and the rest of the board did a great job organizing the meeting with Brandon Fox. He did a great job, and there was a great turnout. So that was a good meeting. I'd also like to thank the mayor for his leadership in all these processes that have been going on. It's a big deal. And lastly, or next to last, the drug task force. There's a lot going on in the city, and the citizens feel comfortable now reaching out to the drug task force, creating partnerships, being willing, I say it again, to collect the information and being willing to go to court, to change their neighborhoods. It's a big deal. And so to have that kind of partnership, I haven't seen that in a while. So, hats off to them. And also, thank you, sir. This means a lot. I will be there. That's sir.
Thank you, Mr. Shute.
Thank you, Mr. President. I will simply congratulate you and
Thank you.
Councilman Neely, and say it was great to see you bring in such a crowd this evening for your swearing in. It's neat to see you here, and congratulations to you both. And that, so yeah,
Mr. Labutus.
I'd like to congratulate Mr. Harris on not being Mr. President.
Thank you.
Glad you're here, and also welcome to Mr. Neely. Glad you're on council as well. Wanted to thank both Brendan Fox and David Rose for helping me with a couple constituent issues and concerns they helped me with. And lastly, always happy to support our safety forces. You guys do a fantastic job. You represent us well, and we're proud of you. So to be able to support you this way, and then a lot, that I will pass.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Mr. Lang.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. Congratulations, Mr. President, and congratulations, Dustin. It's nice to have you up here. I don't mind the reorder because now I can see the flag. Sorry, Spencer. He's like 6'7". I want to thank Director Hickman, Director Spurgeon there. When it comes to the safety command raises in particular, I think there's obviously a lot of back and forth, and You know, we asked you guys a lot of tough questions and you made the case, and I think you really did your diligence. So I appreciate the candor there and the follow-up. I think it was helpful for all of us to really see how we were stacking up. And I think once we did that, it became clear what we needed to do. And that's, you know, support our safety forces fully. So I'm happy that we were able to make those adjustments and get back into the right range when it comes to our command staff. And with that, I will end this next.
Thank you, Mr. Marmy.
Thank you, Mr. President. First, I need to call a finance committee meeting for September the 5th. Next, I need to do some additional business. I need to invoke Rule 21 on ordinance 23-21B. Rule 21 allows me on the prevailing side to reconsider any ordinance before the next council meeting has full council meeting has ended. I need to invoke that rule in order to reconsider 23-21.
Second.
Take a roll call.
A roll call vote.
Roll call vote.
Yes. It's the same as you would have to pass it.
Okay.
Pass it to the same group as to read.
Okay.
Mr. Ryan,
Yes.
Mr. Barker.
Yes.
Ms. Blind. Yes. Mr. Shute,
Yes.
Mr. Hauser, Mr. Labutus.
Yes.
Mr. Lang.
Yes.
Mr. Marmy.
Yes.
Mr. Neely.
Yes.
Mr. Rath.
Yes.
Okay, it passes. Run through. Go ahead, Mr. Plant.
Okay, since 23-21 is on the table again, I need to amend 23-21A to 23-21B. 23-21B is adding the C-Tech in there and also attaching the,
That's the person.
oh, that's the enterprise zone.
Yes.
That's on the,
That's a different.
okay, and also the commissioner's statement.
Second.
So we got a motion to amend by Mr. Marmy and second by Mr. Lang. Any more discussion? You need this all
Ryan,
Yes.
Mr. Barker.
Yes.
Ms. Blind. Yes. Mr. Shute,
Yes.
Mr. Hauser, Mr. Labutus.
Yes.
Mr. Lang.
Yes.
Mr. Marmy,
Yes.
Mr. Neely.
Yes.
Mr. Rath.
Yes.
So the amendment has passed 9-0.
Funny word, yeah, we just need to roll call for the actual adoption because it's already on the table.
All right, so that passes 9-0 now. Do I have a motion to adopt?
It's already on the table. It doesn't need
So
another
we just
motion.
need-
The reconsideration.
Okay.
Mr. Ryan.
Yes.
Mr. Barker.
Yes.
Ms. Blind. Yes. Mr. Shute,
Yes.
Mr. Hauser, Mr. Labutus.
Yes.
Mr. Lang.
Yes.
Mr. Marmy.
Yes.
Mr. Neely.
Yes.
Mr. Rath.
Yes.
So 23-21B has been adopted.
Yes. And I would just like to bring some of
Go
the
ahead.
council's
Pass
attention.
9-2.
The enterprise zone legislation that was passed, the legislation did not need to be amended, but for council awareness, and if you would like, for determining whether or not you would like to follow Rule 21. The only changes to the enterprise zone agreement were that we added the proper resolution from the commissioners back in 1988 to the agreement, as well as we took out a paragraph that was duplicate, meaning that it had set it up here and then it also set up here. But I wanted you all to have the opportunity to review this before I signed that piece of legislation.
Continue, Mr. Marmy.
Okay, yes, thank you. Next, speaking while we're talking about stuff like that, I want to recognize Mr. Platt back there. Thank you for coming. Thank you for what you're doing in the city of Newark. I hope this is the first of maybe many. We encourage that a lot. I'm very thankful that the first location is in the 6th Ward. Thank you again for that. So, a couple of other things. One thing that was mentioned about, we voted on the non-bargaining. All the bargaining agreements, their pay raises have been agreed to except for ASME. That one is coming at the next set of meetings. So that is coming. It is not something that has been delayed by the city. The electrical fires that occurred in Hawaii, the city of Newark, if a hurricane was coming through, we would definitely ensure that the power companies shut down those power wires. That's where the failure was, is that it was not that they had overhead power lines, it was that they failed to shut them down during a hurricane. So that I think that we would make sure that happened here, or we would encourage that to happen here. It is up to the private sector to determine whether or not they want overhead or underground. It is not a city mandated thing. Want to thank Director Hickman and Director Spurgeon for the numerous conversations. I think that's been said, but I really do appreciate the discussions that we've had, the education that we've had. And I just love that we can support our safety forces. There's more that needs to be done. The citizens of Newark are very adamant that some improvement as far as the numbers of police and the ability to have more patrols is something that is a high priority. So there is more work that still needs to be done on everybody's part, including ourselves. So finally, want to recognize and congratulate our new council president, Jeff Harris. Thank you. Appreciate what you do, and I'm glad that you're in that position. And also recognize, congratulations to Councilman Neely for being a part of this council, and I look forward to working with you. And with that, I will pass.
Mr. Neely.
Thank you, Mr. President. First and foremost, thank you everyone for the warm welcome. Thank you, many in the audience for their welcomes. It is my honor to serve this city. I've born and raised here. It's a true honor. Also honor one of the first meeting, one of the first votes to support our safety forces is close to my heart. We have a phenomenal fire and police department, amazing safety forces. So I'm happy to support that. And with that, I will pass.
Thank you, Mr. Rath.
Thank you. I'll start out with calling a service committee meeting for September 5th. I want to say congratulations, Mr. Harris.
Thank you, sir.
I'm looking forward to working with you as president. Congratulations, Mr. Neely. I'm going to apologize right now if I ever answer to a question posed to you, because I've followed Mr. Marmee for the last 14 years. And it's a lot of times it's a reflex, yes. So if you call your name and I answer, I apologize.
It's just another ball, gentlemen.
I like that. So, with that,
Thank you. I want to thank everybody for their kind words tonight and their support. And also like to congratulate the North Wildcats for beating Zanesville on Friday night. That was a big win, and hopefully that'll give them some momentum for the season. Also like to thank the safety forces for all you do, and hope to see you at all the council meetings now. Keep coming, and support us. So, and our next meeting is going to be Tuesday, September 5th, because Labor Day is on the 4th. And with that, do I have a motion? Motion by Mr. Labutus. Second by Mr. Parker.
As chair of that committee, I don't see an issue with the changes they're made. I don't believe the council needs to.
No, the legislation has not been
Yeah,
amended. I just want to make sure everybody knew about it.
Thank you.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign.